Hola, welcome to the Mass Leaders Podcast. And this is Minutes with Ruth, where we talk about first gen conversations that should have happened at the dinner table, but probably didn't. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your snack, and let's get right to it. I know you all have busy lives. Today, I want to talk about something that does not come up enough in leadership conversations: faith. Not as a religious debate, but as the thing that kept me standing when nothing else made sense. I'm Ruth. This is Minutes with Ruth. Let's go. There have been moments in my life where I had every reason to quit. Moments where the door closed, where things didn't happen the way I thought they would happen, where I looked around and could not see a single person who had walked the path that I was trying to walk. And then those moments, it wasn't my credentials or my recognitions that kept me going. It was not my network. It was not my strategy. It was my faith. The quiet knowing that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, that the closed doors were protection and God's redirection, that the delays were preparation, that the path that looked like it was falling apart was actually being rerouted to something better. I'm a first generation leader and I am a woman of faith. And those two things for me are not separate. They are the same story because everything I have built, I built by taking steps I could not fully see. And faith is what made that possible. When I look back at the seasons of my life that I lived and I look at myself now, I realize that our lives are being prepared for our constant purpose. That at times we don't understand why leadership in our lives looks different, but something is happening within us that we start learning how to navigate these scenarios. I also know that every situation is a Here are Ruth's three for this week. Number one, faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision to move anyway. Every leader I respect has had moments of profound uncertainty. The difference between the ones who made it and the ones who didn't is not that some had more talent or more resources. It is that some decided to take the next step even when they couldn't see the full staircase. That, my friends, is faith in action. And as a first generation leader, you have been doing this your whole life. You just did not always have a name for it. I remember how uncertain my life was growing up. My personal background, I was four and a half when my parents divorced, and I was raised by my dad, who had a lot of kids from his first marriage. And so I came into a very uncertain environment. I grew up in a very faith forward home, but very uncertain about what life was going to look like the next week or even the next month. I didn't know. All I do remember is our strong faith in knowing that God had control over our lives, regardless of how hard situations were. So that taught me resilience. That taught me how to navigate uncertainty and also not break through hardships. I'm not saying I don't cry, but what I am saying is I don't break because I know God's got all the pieces together and He's already putting them together before I even see it. God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the called. I have sat in rooms where I felt completely unqualified, where everyone around me seemed to have all the credentials, the connections, the confidence I did not have. And I had to learn over and over again that being chosen for a room is not about being the most polished person in it. It is about being the right person for it. Your calling does not require your perfection. It requires your availability. Show up. God will handle the rest. And if you're in a room where you feel like you're not qualified for, know and trust that you belong in that room and that your purpose and your calling is part of that process. Number three, your testimony is your ministry. Every hard thing you have walked through as a first generation leader, the sacrifice, the doubt, the breakthrough, that is not just your story. That is someone else's survival guide. When you share what you have been through openly and honestly, you give other people permission to keep going. And that, my friends, is leadership. That is ministry. And you do not need a stage or a title to do it. You just need the courage to be honest about your journey. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in rooms, I've sat on panels, I stood on stages talking about my story and the impact that it has had on people. I can show up and talk about frameworks and strategy and all of the things that perhaps make me sound smart. But when I share my story and the vulnerability that my story brings. And I am not embarrassed. I am actually proud because my story made me who I am as a first generation Latina. That's not to say I still don't face hardship. That is not to say I have it all figured out. I don't. But one thing I do know is that if anything that I can share can change someone else's life or motivate someone to keep going and not give up, whether it's your career, whether it's your degree, whether it's your business, whether it's being a mom, whether it's being a leader. I don't care where you're at. If anything that I share can help you continue your journey, it was all worth it. And those are Ruth's three for this week. Perfect isn't coming, but purpose is. And if you're walking in yours today, even imperfectly, even uncertainly, even on one shaky step at a time, I want you to know that is enough. Keep going. I'm Ruth. This is Mass Leaders. Subscribe, share with someone who needs a reminder today that they're exactly where they are supposed to be. And leave me a comment. Tell me one moment where faith carried you further than your plan could. Thanks for being here.